Lost all my seeds. Look how tiny poppy seeds are. They look like little specks of black pepper. So there it is, honey soy chicken on a bed of basmati rice and some roasted carrots. As I was editing this video, my doorbell rang, and it was actually the delivery of the steaks that I had ordered for this Monstera. So let me show you what they look like. There is a snowstorm coming, so today I'm making a soup. I don't know if anyone else is like this, but whenever there is snow coming, you almost feel like this urge to just cook up a storm. But today is soup because I feel like that is nice and cozy, plus we're all getting over a cold. And this is a great recipe. It's actually one from Skinny Taste that I've been making for quite a bit now. And it does take a bag of spinach, but because my family isn't big on the spinach in the soup, I usually omit that part of the recipe, but I'll go ahead and link that below. Hi, it's Steph, and welcome to episode 4 of Hooked and Rooted at Home. If you're new to my channel, I primarily do gardening content. However, because I live in the Northeast and I can't garden in the winter, I've created this series on my channel where I share with you a little bit of home life. And today, actually, we're having a snowstorm here in New England, and it's really beautiful. This is our first snowstorm of the year, and the kids were really excited and went out to play, but it's also put me in the mood to cook. In fact, I've been cooking since yesterday. I made that delicious chicken soup that you just saw, and this morning I made chocolate chip pancakes, and this evening for dinner I'm going to make a fan favorite, and it is called honey soy chicken. It is something that we make pretty often. It's an Asian inspired dish that's delicious. So let me go ahead and share with you what you need to make this dinner. To make this dish, the first thing we'll talk about is the chicken. It does call for boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and actually these are going to be your best bet to make this, because if you try to use chicken breast, it's going to dry out and not taste quite as good. So I have here 3.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. And the only thing I've done to it so far was I cleaned up a lot of the fat. I seasoned it with some of this sea salt, some black pepper, and some garlic powder. So that is it. And you season it to your liking. Now that I have my chicken seasoned, I am also going to work on a sauce that's going to go on top of the chicken. That is what the chicken is going to cook in. And I'm going to show you what you need for the sauce. I'm going to type out these ingredients in the description of the video for you as well. So to make your sauce, you're going to need 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And now I always start with the olive oil because it also calls for honey, but I don't want the honey to stick to my spoon. So if you use olive oil first, the honey will just slip off of your spoon. So 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Three tablespoons of soy sauce. And I always use low sodium soy sauce because soy sauce can be pretty salty. All right, and now you need 5 tablespoons of honey. Now the recipe calls for some garlic. It's calling for 4 cloves. I'm just going to add 2 tablespoons of this garlic. Let me rinse my spoon. I'm just going to go ahead and use the rest of this jar. And then once you have all of these ingredients in here, you can whisk them together, and then you're just going to add a little bit of black pepper. Now the recipe also calls for salt. It says salt and pepper to taste, but because the soy sauce already has a lot of sodium and I seasoned my chicken, I'm going to omit the salt in the sauce, and I'm just going to add some black pepper. I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of black pepper. There was one ingredient that I forgot to add to my bowl of the sauce, and that is ground ginger. You also need to add to your sauce mixture a half a teaspoon of ground ginger. And that is it. This is going to be the sauce that your chicken is going to cook in. So I have a 9 by 13 Pyrex baking dish, and that is the perfect size for me to put 3 to 4 pounds of chicken thighs in. So the first thing that I do is I'm going to spray it with a non-stick cooking spray. And what this will do is once this sauce starts to cook, it's going to get sticky, and I want to avoid getting the pan too sticky because it'll make it hard to clean. So if I spray it with some of this non-stick olive oil, it makes cleanup quite a bit easier. And then you want to arrange your chicken in your pan. Now you're going to cook this for 1 hour. So the first, you're going to cook it for 25 minutes, turn them, another 20 minutes, turn them, and the final 15 minutes, turn them. So I always start them with the upper side this way. This isn't the breast, it's the top of the thigh. So I leave it facing this way for the first time that I stick it in the oven, and then you're going to flip it and flip it again so it will end up on this side when you're done. I hope that makes sense, but you'll see it when I'm showing you while it's cooking. So now that I have my chicken arranged, I'm going to take my sauce and I'm going to pour it over. Now, if you were making a bigger portion, you would have to make a second batch of sauce. And what I do is I just kind of make sure that the sauce is all over the chicken. You're essentially like marinating it. Now, while I've been prepping, I did have the oven preheating, and you want to have your oven preheating to 425 degrees. All right, so now the chicken is all coated. And I also think that the minced garlic works really well for this recipe because it is so small, it gets in all of the crevices. Okay, I'm going to wash my hands and we'll get it in the oven. So you can see that my heat is at 425, and I'm going to set this to 25 minutes before I have to turn it for the first time. Now I'm going to show you some sides that I make with this dish. One of them being roasted carrots. Now carrots are generally really sweet anyway, but they come out even more sweet and delicious when you roast them in some olive oil, and they're the perfect side dish for this honey roasted or honey soy chicken. So let me show you how I make these. So the first thing I want to do is, I had a bag of carrots for our family of 4. I usually use about a 2-pound bag of carrots. And the first step is to clean them up. So I use a peeler and I peel the carrots, and then I cut them into chunks so that I can roast them, so that they can roast more evenly, because some carrots are thicker, some are thinner, and so forth. So what I do is I cut them into smaller pieces, and if I have some carrots that are really thick, I will slice them in the center as well. And like I said, this is mostly to help them cook more evenly. I had them in water, I washed them and rinsed them, and now I'm ready to season them. So to make your roasted carrots, this is what you need. You are going to put some olive oil on them, and that's going to help the seasoning stick. So I'm going to go ahead and drizzle some olive oil, and I actually might be almost out of it in this container, so I have another one on standby. But it might also be enough. It'll be enough for the bowl, but not to glaze the foil or to put on the foil. So you need some olive oil, and to season them, super easy. You're going to need some garlic powder, some black pepper. Because I want them to be sweet, I am not going to salt them. So garlic, black pepper to taste, and then I'm going to add some ginger. This is ground ginger. And then you're going to toss it all. Now I just toss it until everything is coated, and then you're going to lay them out on a lined cookie sheet. I got my fresh bottle of olive oil, and now that my carrots are seasoned and ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and just grease my lined cookie sheet. And this side could not be simpler. It is delicious, and it's a great way to get kids to eat carrots because they come out so sweet and yummy. So again, just garlic powder, ginger, and a little bit of black pepper. And I'm just going to spread them out on my cookie sheet, because if they're too close to each other, they'll steam instead of roast. So I used a bit bigger cookie sheet to make sure that that wouldn't happen, and so that they would get nice and caramelized. All right, in the oven with the chicken they go. So these will be cooking alongside the chicken with the same temperature. So they're going into the oven at 425 degrees for about 40 minutes. But just keep an eye on them and turn them about halfway through so that they can roast evenly on all sides. My timer just went off, so now it's time to take out my chicken and get it flipped. And you're going to flip them and pop them back in the oven for another 20 minutes. See, this is not the pretty side, which is why when you flip them for the last time, they'll be facing the good side. Okay, back in the oven for another 20 minutes. Now I'm going to work on the starch that I'm going to add to our meal, and I'm making some rice to accompany it. Now you can use any kind of rice that you like. I use basmati, but either a basmati or a jasmine would go really well with this recipe. So I have measured out 1 cup, and I'm going to measure out another half because for my family I make 1.5 cups, which then will be 3 cups cooked because it's double, right? So I'm measuring out 1.5 cups of rice. And I recently bought these measuring spoons or these measuring cups, and I'm really liking them. I had another set in the past that had a separate handle, like it was welded on. I'll actually show you. I had this set in the past, and what I didn't like about it is that you can see here that it starts to rust where the 2 pieces meet, and then they fall apart. So I was looking specifically for a set that didn't do that, and that was 1 piece. And I've washed these quite a few times already through the dishwasher, and there's no signs of rust, so they seem to be decent quality. They have the measuring amount etched into the cup so they won't fade or wash off. And they also have different points here of measurement. So if it's a 1 cup, there's also a half or in a 3/4. You can see that on the outside too. So it came with the cups. You can see here it came with a set of 4 cups. It has the 1 cup, the half, the 1/3 and 1/4, and also a set of measuring spoons. So I've been really liking these. You can take the spoons apart. I usually do have them apart. It's just easier. But anyway, I have them linked in my Hooked and Rooted Amazon store if you're interested in a new set of measuring cups. So let me go ahead and get this rice rinsed and cooking. And for 1.5 cups of rice, I'm adding 3 cups of water. And I'm just going to cook it for about 10 to 12 minutes on a medium to low heat. I just took the chicken out for the final time. It's going to get spun or flipped 1 more time, and then it's going to go into the oven for the last 15 minutes. So the first round of cooking is 25 minutes. Then you'll flip it, and then that is another 20 minutes. And then this last time you flip it again, and it's another 15 minutes. So these cook for a total of 1 hour. You can see now that they're going to start getting nice and brown on top the next time that we take them out. And at the same time, I just flipped the carrots for the last time, and I'm going to go ahead and put those in the oven to finish up with the chicken. Okay, everything's ready. So now I'm going to start plating it up, and I'll show you what everything looks like. You can see how the chicken got really nice color. So I'm going to go ahead and plate it up now. And I usually like to sit it kind of right on top of the rice so that the juices can soak into the rice. Just makes it really delicious. And you can take some of this sauce and pour it over the top. Really easy meal. A package of chicken, some ginger, soy sauce, olive oil, honey, salt and pepper. I mean, most people have most of those ingredients at home. And here are the roasted carrots. You can see how they start to get nice and caramelized. And the key with these is just to cook them at the same time and maybe just turn them once or twice while the chicken is cooking, and you're turning the chicken anyway. Once you have carrots this way, I promise it's probably the only way you're going to want to eat them. They just really bring out the sweetness. So there it is, honey soy chicken on a bed of basmati rice and some roasted carrots. Is my garden assistant doing a little bit of lunchtime snow cleanup. It's the next day and now it's sunny, so the snow's had a chance to melt, and so he's just moving it out with the shovel instead of getting out the snowblower, making a path for the kids to come down the driveway on their way home from the bus. But I am going to take a few minutes to sow some poppies. So let me show you the variety. All right, I got them out of the container. It is the Lilac Pom Pom by Baker Creek, and it's a gorgeous poppy. I actually grew this variety in 2022, and I collected my own seeds. So here are all the seeds that I have, quite a bit. Poppy seeds generate lots and lots, or poppies give you lots and lots of seeds. Poppies like a period of cold stratification in order for them to bloom best. So a lot of times it's recommended to sow them on top of snow. So today, since we have some snow, it's the perfect time for me to go ahead and get these out. But if you don't get snow, you can throw your seeds in the freezer for 2 to 3 weeks before you go ahead and sow them or sprinkle them on the dirt. And that will mimic the same process. So this is my patio bed, which you can't even see right now, where I have all my beautiful coneflowers in the summer. And I am just going to take the seeds and sprinkle them. I just want to show you how tiny. Oh, good thing that landed the right way. I would have lost all my seeds. Look how tiny poppy seeds are. They look like little specks of black pepper. So you definitely don't want to sprinkle these on a windy day or you'll lose all of your seeds in the wind. So let me go ahead and get these down. And once the snow melts, they'll kind of just fall on top of the soil and hopefully they will germinate for us. That's it. Done. Now hopefully we get beautiful poppies this year. While we can't do a garden tour outside, I thought that I would give you a little bit of a houseplant tour. I'm pretty new to houseplants. I've only been growing them for about 3 years, but what started my love for them was this beauty right here. This is a Monstera, some type of Monstera that was actually given to me as a division from my neighbor's plant. Now I have a neighbor who has quite a collection of houseplants, and she had this beautiful plant that got really large and needed dividing. So about 3 or so years ago, she divided them all up and she gave me a division. I've kept it here in the corner of my dining room, which gets bright midday to afternoon sun, and it's been really happy. It's actually grown so much that it's requiring a little bit of staking at this point. You can see that I stuck a bamboo stick in here to kind of give it a little bit of stability, but I absolutely love these really large, gorgeous leaves. While bamboo sticks do serve as good plant stakes, I use them outside in the garden all the time. The ones that I ordered kind of look like a fork, so you can stick things between each of the teeth. And I think that it'll help give this Monstera plant a bit better shape. So I'm excited to get those in and start staking the plant to see what it will look like. But these root super easily. You can actually see here underneath that these are all roots right here. Look how large they are. Look at this one here. So this plant puts out all of these really large roots. So if you wanted to propagate it, you would just cut it at one of these leaf nodes right here. Stick this in some soil, and there you go. You have a whole other plant. Here across the way from the Monstera, I have a money tree. Now we got this as a small, maybe 5 or 6 inch planter, and it grew quite a bit. And when it got too large for that planter, I went ahead and I potted it up. But it went through a little bit of transplant shock and it lost the 3rd branch that was coming over this way. It's just now starting to recover and put a little bit of growth out at the bottom. But this one is also a pretty cool tree. Really large leaves, or really cool plant, I should say. It's called a money tree. And the last set of plants that I have in my dining room are in this corner here, and this is what I'm calling the rehab corner. Now, this larger plant here on the stand, a Tenathy luberciana, it's also known as a golden mosaic plant. I had purchased on clearance at Lowe's about a couple of years ago for like $5, and it was in rough shape when I got it, but then I nursed it back to health and it looked absolutely beautiful. But just recently it started to go south again, so I took a bunch of cuttings off of it that I've been rooting, and I'm going to show you that. And here's the other plant that I'm trying to nurse back to health in this corner here. This is a Birkin philodendron, and they are a really beautiful plant with variegated leaves. And about a week ago, this had a bunch of leaves, but all of a sudden they started to kind of drop and yellow. Now, from what I know about houseplants is that they will turn yellow in 2 cases. Either the leaf is old and needs to be cleaned off, or the plant is getting too much water, similar to outdoor plants. So I think in this case, I wasn't giving it a lot of water because I do let the soil dry out between waterings. I think because it's all the lower leaves, the plant's probably just going through a cycle where these are old and need to come off. See, this one just fell off when I spun the planter. And it's putting out a bunch of new leaf nodes. So you can see there's one here, there's one there. If I spin the plant, there's a couple more there. So that's exciting. See, there's some more coming off right here that you can see. So I'm happy that I see that new activity coming up off the trunk of this plant because it means that it's just putting out some new growth, which means it's not ready to die just yet. So that's a good sign. Here's the golden mosaic plant that I'm propagating. I put it in this clear glass vase and I just took a bunch of cuttings off of it. And I'll show you where I made the cuttings. I made them at a leaf node and they've been in this water for about, I would want to say about a month or a month and a half now. And look at all of these roots on them. You can see that it's already sprouting out new leaves. So these are all new plants. So you could pot them up individually and give them away as gifts if you wanted to. But in my case, I'm just going to use it to bulk up my plant because it's looking a little bit sad. So I have 2 good sized plants here. And this one's also starting to grow some roots. This was the last one that I put into the vase. So super easy. All you do is take cuttings at a leaf node, stick them in water, and you have a bunch of new plants. And when I was explaining that you want to cut it at a leaf node, this is exactly what I mean. You would follow the stem of the plant, and where you find this little junction here, you would cut it right there, place this in some water, and that is where your roots will grow. So those 3 cuttings are almost ready for me to transplant them into this planter, and I'm going to put them in and around, and that will hopefully fill this plant up a bit more. And in this area here in the back of my living room is my other spot that I have that's really good for plants. It is the east side of the house and it gets really bright morning light until about midday, at which point the sun moves over the house and ends up in the dining room area. So over the last couple of years, I found that these are my 2 best spots for my house plants. So let's check these out. Here on this table, I have a Mandula pothos, and this is a trilling plant. I've had this one for a little while, but I just moved it to this window recently because it was getting not as much sun where I had it in the kitchen. I would love to have a bunch of plants in my kitchen, but unfortunately they don't do really well in there. There's just not enough light. But I love this one because it's variegated. And unlike the golden pothos, the difference is that this one has a bit more white to it. And 2 that I picked up just this season are one of them is this one here, which they call the Swiss cheese plant. I'm sure you can probably guess why, right? Because look at all of these holes. They look like a slice of Swiss cheese. Now this is actually called, let's see here. It is a Monstera Andersoni Little Swiss. And I really like this plant. It's one that I've had on my wish list since last year. I had seen it in a video and I finally came across one, so I picked it up. And it just stays about medium size. It doesn't get as big as some of the other Monsteras. So that's really good. But anyhow, I really like this one. I've been enjoying this one. And this one I picked up just at my last Home Depot tour. This is a Chrome Belize Ficus elastica. And it's one of those proven winners leaf joy plants. And look how beautiful those leaves are. Gorgeous. So I am hopeful that this one will like this window and do well in this spot. Here's another clearance plant that I picked up at Lowe's a few years back. It was also around $5. This had all but 2 leaves on it when I picked it up. I wish I had taken photos of these, but to be honest, I had no faith that they would actually live and make it. So I wasn't thinking that far in the future, but it has done beautifully. Now this is a calathea. It's called the peacock plant. And what's really interesting, it has a really beautiful underside. See that? Almost like a burgundy purple color and all of that pretty. It almost looks painted. Pretty coloring there with the light green and the dark green. I love this plant. And they're part of the prayer plant family. So it will close up at night and opens up in the morning, which is really interesting. But it's almost ready to be repotted because you can see here, it's pretty tight in its pot. And all of my plants I water about once a week. I try to let them dry out between watering because I'm afraid to deal with fungus gnats. In fact, I've had fungus gnats in the past. It is no fun. I had to tell my husband that they were fruit flies because he was not going to be happy if he knew that the plants were bringing in those little flying bugs. But I was able to get it under control, and so far, so good. I think that's the learning curve with houseplants. Sometimes we want to kill them with too much love. We give them too much water, and that can not only could cause your plant to die from root rot, but it also brings fungus gnats. So this is a Dracaena, also known as a corn plant. I've also had this one for a couple of years, and it keeps getting taller and taller. And if you've ever grown corn in the vegetable garden, you can kind of see where it gets its name, right? Kind of looks like an actual corn plant. I really love the plant stand that it's in too. It's a Better Homes and Gardens. I purchased it at Walmart last year. I'm hoping I can find it again because I would like to put a matching one on the other side. And another clearance plant, a $5 fiddle leaf fig that I picked up at Lowe's. And look at all of these leaves. Now this one is a little finicky, I have to say. I had a little bit of trouble figuring out where it was gonna like it best. And over the years, probably in the last 3 years, I've moved it quite a few times. It's been in my dining room. And finally we settled on this spot, and look at it. It's flourishing. It's looking beautiful. And so far, now that it's thriving, I'm gonna leave it here. I'm not going to dare move it. I also water this about once a week. Now these do like humidity. I wouldn't say that my house is humid at all, but for whatever reason, it's getting some nice bright indirect light here, and it really likes it. So we will leave it there. And I have a same table on the other side so that each side of the living room mirrors each other with another set of plants. Now look at this spider plant. It's going crazy. It has a bunch of spider plant babies. See that? I actually have 2 of these plants because I started a new one from one of the babies, and now the baby plant has babies. I'm going to show you that. So I am probably going to pot up all of these the next time our garden club has some kind of event for fundraising, and see if we can sell those off to earn some money for the club. Look at this. This is another trailing plant, another pothos, and this is the traditional golden pothos. Now you can say pothos or pothos, but let me know in the comments how you pronounce it. And this one is very common and also really easy to propagate. All you do is look for one of these leaf nodes, cut it, throw it in some water. It'll grow some roots in a few weeks, and then you have a whole new plant. I actually did that and gave one to a friend as a housewarming gift. With a bottle of wine, and you're good to go. I have a couple more behind here. Now this one's a little finicky, I'm gonna be honest. This is a pilea. It's also known as some kind of money plant. I'll get the tag out to confirm. But this one was not happy. I had it also in the kitchen, maybe not enough light. It seems to be doing a lot better on this plant stand here. And I really love the round shape of the foliage. You see that? It's a real pretty one. This one here is called a Chinese money plant, and it's a unique house plant with glossy green round succulent leaves. I got this one actually as a gift with purchase at a local nursery, which was really nice. And then I have my Thanksgiving cactus that just finished blooming. You can see it was a little late this year. And the reason for that is because I didn't bring it outside in the summer like I normally do. So when you bring these outside in the summer, they put on quite a bit of growth. And when you bring them back in, that shift in temperature will trigger them to put out all of their leaf buds or their bloom buds. You can see this one still has a tiny one right there that might bloom. This one looks like it wants to push one out, but this typically blooms for me around Thanksgiving when I bring it out for the summer. Well, this year I didn't bring it out for the summer. I left it indoors, and it bloomed for me around Christmas. So a little bit later. And this is a begonia. This is a polka dot begonia. Now mine has really small leaves. I've seen these in store with really large leaves. So if this is a plant that you grow, if you could please let me know in the comments if yours has small leaves or large leaves and what I can do to improve the size of my leaves. I'd be very grateful. I also have a small aloe plant. It's just a little itty bitty baby that I actually got from one of the members in our garden club. She had brought in a bunch of baby aloe plants, and I was happy to take one home because I didn't have one. And this is what the aloe that you get, you know, the aloe gel that you have in lotions or that you use after a sunburn. This is where they come from. Here's my other spider plant, and you can see that this one that I started from one of the babies, there are all of its babies trailing down the front of my cabinet here. So lots and lots of spider plants to go around. And my friend Antoinette that I actually did a garden tour at last spring, we went and did a tour of her beautiful garden with all of her Japanese maples. She gave me a cutting of one of her plants, and this I believe is a neon philodendron. This was a tiny, tiny little cutting when she gave it to me, and it's put on quite a bit of growth. I've been really liking using saucers. This is like an old teacup set that I had from a baby shower I went to, and I'm using that as my saucer on my plant. This corner is now empty because I moved the Birkin that was here to the rehab corner. It just wasn't getting enough light, but I do want to make that a replacement. I want to put something here. So if you can think of a plant for me that has a low light requirement that might do well in this corner, let me know in the comments. And here in our home office, I have two more plants. This here is a silver satin pothos, and it's a really beautiful trailer. Now this one was also given to me as a cutting, and what's really beautiful about these is that not only does it have these silver speckles, but it almost has like a velvet-like appearance. It's absolutely beautiful. And it looks small still because it was from a cutting that was given to me, but look at this. It's got a bunch of new leaves that are unfurling. So it seems to like this spot. And I thought that my Monstera was my oldest plant, and this is actually my very oldest plant. I've had this since 2006. Okay, so this plant is roughly 15 years old, and it's a miracle that it's still alive. This is a serenity plant, or a peace lily. I got this when my grandfather passed away. Someone from work had sent this to me, and I'm just glad that I've been able to keep it alive all of these years. Now, it has struggled quite a bit. So at one point I was overwatering it. I was down to just having one little stem, and you know, it made it, which is amazing. And now it puts out little babies once in a while. So I'm hopeful that over time it'll get a lot bigger. And a plant that's pretty beginner friendly, that doesn't need a lot of water, I probably water it about once a month maybe, is a snake plant, also known as Sansevieria and mother-in-law's tongue. It seems to like this corner here by our fireplace in our living room. It doesn't get a ton of light, but enough between, you know, the foyer and the living room windows that it's pretty happy. In fact, it's put out a new leaf. You can see that lighter lime green one is some new growth. So I really like the shape of this plant here. A quick update on my amaryllis. I have this amaryllis here, the white one that I had purchased at Home Depot, that we actually potted up in my last Hooked and Rooted at Home episode 3. And it already had one bloom stalk that I had to cut off because it fell from the weight of the blooms, but it was really beautiful. And now I have this one in bloom. I'm still waiting on the red ones, and the amaryllis that we potted from Longfield Gardens, the Dancing Queen, when I made the video with my friend Kate and Maureen, is also all budded up and starting to send out its bloom stalks, or send them up I should say, and that should bloom in the next couple of weeks. As I was editing this video, my doorbell rang, and it was actually the delivery of the stakes that I had ordered for this Monstera. So let me show you what they look like. They are 3-piece segments that you connect together to get the height that you need. And when all 3 are together, you get a 39-inch height, which I needed for this really tall stem in the middle of the Monstera. But when you connect only 2 pieces together, you get a shorter segment, which I needed for some of these outer or lower branches. And you can see here, what I like about it is that it's green, so it's going to camouflage in with my plant. And I like that this top section almost looks like a branch with multiple spaces for me to stick my Monstera leaves in, which I think will give it really nice support. So anyway, those are my stakes that I purchased, and I will link them below in case you have a plant that you need to stake. These look like they're going to work out well. Rocco, what did that monkey do to you, Rocco? You're being so fresh. And this is why you can't get stuffies. Rocco has decided that his mission for today was to make sure that his monkey that he got for Christmas no longer has a squeak. Isn't that right, Rocco? Can I have your monkey? Give me that monkey. And he's moved on. And now I have a big mess to clean up, and he's going to work on his bone. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Hooked and Rooted at Home. We did a little bit of cooking, some poppies sowing in the snow, as well as a little bit of houseplant touring. And it was just like a bit of a combination of things that I do during the winter, really. I wish that we could get out in the garden, but this is a great time of year just to take a little bit of a pause, do some resting, and tend to other things that don't get attention, like organizing the house, laundry, cleaning, all that non-fun stuff. But my sidekick wanted to get a little minute of spotlight on our outro here. So thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button, and please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. and we'll see you soon.